The goal was only the money. With a smile on his face, he gave the command to fire and his men prepared to shoot. At that exact moment, a huge explosion engulfed the vehicle and the road in a ball of fire. One of the thugs looked at the aftermath without understanding what had happened. Then Tiger shouted at his man, asking how they would get the money after killing them. The gang boss called them idiots, saying if they'd been blown up, the trip was for nothing. As they approached, a henchman found only the burning wreckage of the vehicle in the middle of the road. At that moment, Tiger's eye caught sight of a projectile being fired toward him at extreme speed. Then a second, even bigger explosion engulfed them all and launched the henchman into the air. In the distance, a triumphant cry echoed amidst the flames of the explosion. Smoke still rose from the barrel of the weapon that had been fired. With a victorious smile, the shooter bragged about hitting them all with a single shot. While Song Chao was still on the ground, Shen Jiamei celebrated that everything had gone up in flames. Amid the fire, Tiger realized what had really happened and cursed at the blunder. Lying on the ground, he tried to understand what was going on as he saw his men scattered around. The leader stood up looking at the explosion and questioned if they had been bombed. He soon realized it had been a counter-ambush, where they used the empty car as bait for a long-range attack. With that, Tiger concluded that a second wave of artillery would soon follow. Immediately, the gang boss shouted for his men to get ready. The order was for one of the thugs to take some others and go deal with the shooters. Then the man called his companions to go with him toward the attack. From afar, Song Chao watched the enemy group advance. Shen Jiamei then warned her sister that someone was coming toward them. The young girl looked at her weapon with a worried expression. She soon realized the ammo still hadn't finished reloading. Because of that, she admitted she wasn't good at close or mid-range combat. But remembering a piece of advice from Shen Jian, she decided nothing gets solved without firepower. Next, a combat drone system activated on her suit. Several missiles were launched into the night sky. Even with the attack, the girl said that still wasn't enough firepower. A group of thugs charged across the wasteland among the debris. The leader shouted that they needed to eliminate the sniper on the hill as quickly as possible and to watch for attacks. One of the men in heavy armor looked up at the sky, confused by the warning. At that moment, an energy beam hit him directly, making him explode, while another thug was struck in the back. One of the gang's women then shouted to the boss that Kongzi's head had been blown off. She then identified the weapon as a precision rifle and ordered them to find the source of the shots. Soon the woman was also hit by another energy beam that disintegrated her instantly. The group leader cursed as he saw another of his members being eliminated like that. Looking toward the hill, he tried to figure out what the hell was attacking them. The answer came when he spotted Shen Jiamei with a levitation cannon and drones floating around her. One of the levitation drones began charging its energy for another shot. The man then panicked upon realizing that kind of weapon had been sold to a civilian. With a confident smile, the girl prepared for the next attack. The gang boss could only scream at what was about to happen. The drones in the sky glowed brightly before firing together. With one last curse, the remaining thugs were swallowed by a massive energy beam. Shen Jiamei then smiled and said she knew her sister had been right all along. Back at Linjing base, the night carried on normally under the city lights. In an alley, the informant lit his pipe to smoke peacefully. He soon took a long drag and slowly exhaled the smoke from his mouth. Suddenly, a figure approached and asked what a snakehead was doing there. The man accused him of selling the information about the rich boy and asked what the deal was with Tiger. With that, he revealed he had heard that Tiger was a slave trader from the Southern District. The informant confirmed that the Southern District was known for kidnappings and slavery, but said he never risked getting into that business. With a grin, he explained it would be a waste to die when he could use the supplies to have fun. Meanwhile, on the road, Tiger was standing back up amid the fire and his fallen men. Eventually, he noticed a large crowd approaching for battle. Soon Shen Jian rushed forward at high speed and leaped over the remaining henchmen. With that, Tiger concluded that the two flowers of the west side were no ordinary opponents. With a smile, the warrior said it had been a long day of ambushes and it was time to play, showing why she was known as the Flower King. Shen Jian began her attack with 2 quick, precise shots. Next, she took down 2 more henchmen while counting each of her targets. With a spin in midair, the warrior dodged incoming bullets and cut down another enemy on the ground. She then kept moving, dodging the projectiles as she counted the 6. As soon as a thug fired, she landed and eliminated 2 others before they could react. With that, Tiger shouted for his men to kill her the moment she touched the ground. The fighter then activated the double jump system on her boots. A propulsion blast launched her back into the air out of the enemy's reach. One of the henchmen shouted in shock as he saw her jump in midair. At the peak of the jump, she aimed her weapon down. Shen Jian landed with a heavy impact right in front of a masked thug. The man only managed to curse at her before the direct clash began. With a quick move, she blocked the blade of an enemy who tried to attack her. She then pierced through the mask of another thug with her weapon. To finish, she leaped and struck the last standing man, completing her count of 9. One of the survivors screamed in terror at the scene while a voice commented it was a good warm-up. The brutality of the fight left Song Chao frozen as Shen Jian said she hadn't even thanked them for showing up. Tiger's eyes filled with rage at the provocation. The woman then thanked everyone for helping her test her new combat equipment. With blood dripping down her face, she finished by saying they had all done a great job. The story then went back to 30 minutes before the confrontation. At that moment, Song Chao asked if someone might be waiting for them on the road ahead. As a message came in, the older sister concluded they would be targeted, and the younger one suggested her attack plan. With a smile, Jemmy agreed with the long-range support strategy. Right after, Joan told the young master to stay with her sister because she couldn't count on his combat skills. The plan was to use the car as bait to draw the ambush fire and catch them off guard. Still unsure, the young man asked if that was really necessary and suggested taking a detour. At that instant, the woman demanded to know what he was talking about. Pointing her finger, the strategist made him listen. The bandits were there to rob him. Their intention was to take his property, sell his meat, enslave his soul, and take his life. Given that, she asked if it wasn't necessary to kill the scum trying to rob, enslave, and murder him. The logical conclusion, according to her, was that their only choice was to eliminate them. Back in the present, the fight continued with Joan blocking a strike and kicking an enemy. Amid several opponents, the fighter moved with agility while shooting. Her shots continued in rapid succession against the remaining thugs. One of them fired repeatedly, but cursed when he saw the bullets couldn't pierce her armor. Meanwhile, the young woman slid across the ground, dodging bullets amid the gunfire. She then hid behind a rock to escape the enemy fire. When she noticed her weapon was out of ammo, she simply sat down and asked if she wasn't being a bit dramatic. Then the thug in heavy armor shoved his companion aside and yelled at him to move. Right after, he aimed a huge cannon at her and roared for her to go to hell. The strategist's expression changed as she realized the danger approaching. Almost at the same time, another man with a heavy machine gun started firing, creating a curtain of fire. The rock serving as her cover was struck by a huge explosion. While cursing, the young woman shielded her face from the flying debris. Amid the attack, she activated a kinetic shield to defend herself. The energy field blocked the barrage of bullets coming her way. One of the bandits laughed, thinking she was dead, as a huge blast erupted behind the barrier. After the detonation, one of the men declared the job was finally done. The group's leader then ordered them to go find her body in the smoke. Suddenly, a beam of light hit the armored thug in the chest. The attack disintegrated him completely before he could scream. From afar, Jamai reminded them not to forget about the long-range cannon. With a smile, John praised her sister for the great teamwork. Finally, the warrior stepped out of the smoke and began firing at the remaining henchmen. Thus, one of the last henchmen screamed in pain as he was hit by one of the shots. Soon another man cursed when he saw his weapon couldn't hit her through the shield. Amid the fire, Tiger also cursed as he noticed his men were being defeated. With that, the leader shouted for her to go to hell and fired his weapon at his opponent. The projectiles flew at high speed, but the fighter managed to dodge in time. Then a targeting system activated on her visor to track the enemy fire. With an acrobatic leap, the warrior dodged the shots and landed on the ground. Seeing this, Jemmy screamed her sister's name in total despair. Song Chao also reacted in shock, saying it wasn't possible. Tiger let out a sigh of relief and began laughing at the situation. However, Joan used the momentum to spin in the air while the enemy shouted her name. Right after, she landed sliding across the ground to block the enemy's armed arm. Then she fired her weapon point-blank directly into his arm. The leader was stunned, not understanding how that was possible. Without hesitation, the young woman kept shooting repeatedly at the opponent's arm. As one of the thugs shouted for Tiger to duck, another gang member was struck by a shot. With her helmet activated, the warrior aimed her weapon after wounding the enemy. Then she turned and asked if their boss's name was really Tiger. While the man was on the ground, she taunted him not to be shy and to fight back. One of the bandits looked terrified at his fallen brother, not understanding the situation. Holding an even bigger weapon, the fighter called out for whoever was hiding to come out and play. Then she asked if they weren't going to try robbing them again, since hiding wouldn't earn them anything. Hearing that, the wounded next to Tiger told him to leave, saying they weren't fat sheep. Realizing they had walked into a trap, the two fled, concluding it was a wolf in sheep's clothing. After their escape, the battlefield was left covered in fire and the bodies of the defeated henchmen. None of the men who stayed to fight survived the confrontation. With her weapon in hand, the fighter stared at the horizon and wondered if the others had fled, while her helmet scanned the area. Soon a voice called for her in the silence. It was Jiamei running toward her with Song Chao right behind. With a smile, the warrior turned to respond to her younger sister's call. Suddenly, she fell backward, fainting into her companion's arms. Seeing this, the young man rushed over and asked what was wrong. The younger girl realized her sister's armor had been pierced by special bullets. The projectile had gone through the protection, and luckily the remaining enemies had fled. Even injured, Joan suggested they return to Linjiang first. Back at the base, she asked to be taken to Dr. Xu. Soon, a woman in a lab coat appeared, the right person to handle that kind of wound. Inside the surgery room, the doctor remarked that it was a rare scene to witness. She went on to say the patient also had her moments of weakness. The doctor then teased that it was the first time she had seen her in the hospital for misjudging her shield's strength. With a sarcastic smile, Eva Jing of Linjiang-based private hospital said she almost laughed at the situation. Lying on the table, the fighter simply told the doctor to shut up. The doctor then asked who could have ammo strong enough to pierce level 2 armor, and the patient replied it was just bad luck. Next, the doctor asked if it was true she had fallen in love with a rich, stupid man. Joan admitted there was no point denying it and asked about the others. The doctor reassured her about her sister, but said the boy seemed more interested in the capsules. Apparently, he had never undergone body enhancement before and everything seemed new to him. With that,